Welcome to How to Identify a Day at Lake Apopka Wildlife Drive. Just this Friday, my parents and I went out to Lake Apopka Wildlife Drive. That's Grandma Brady driving and Granddaddy Brady spotting. And we wanted to share with you some of what we saw. Lake Apopka Wildlife Drive is located pretty close to Orlando. If you look it up on the map, you can see it's just right there. And the entrance is in Apopka and the exit is in Zellwood. You can get the full map at their website. The Wildlife Drive itself is only one part of the actual Lake Apopka North Shore complex. There's a lot of wonderful recreational activities out there, from biking to hiking to picnicking. However, we're going to focus on the Wildlife Drive specifically in this video. Now, people come to the drive for numerous reasons. Obviously, I'm a birder. My parents are birders. The Bradys go out looking for birds. It's Bradys and birds. That's the way it works. But the thing that most people come to Lake Apopka, I think, at least at first to see, are, well, let's just say, a little bit easier to spot than birds. So I figured, why not start big and go with the most macro thing that you might see out here on the drive, and that is the American alligator. Where you'll spot alligators and what you'll see them doing will change significantly on the conditions. If it's a hot day and the water is cooler, you might see them in the water. If it's a day where the water is quite cold and the sun is shining, you might get them all basking. So when you're looking for them in the water, the main thing you'll see is their head and their nose, maybe their back and their tail. If you're really lucky, you might get to see them up close moving around. But most of the time, when you're spotting them at the drive, they're going to be kind of just sitting there. That makes them easy to spot, but it also can be a little less dynamic than some of the other species you'll see that tend to be a little more active consistently than the alligators. The benefit of them being so close and often not moving is you can really get to see the details of the alligators. Often they'll be basking on the sides of the canal, and if they choose to bask on the side that the cars drive on, then you can get extremely close to them. Otherwise, you may have a really nice view of them across on the dike opposite of where you're driving. You may see multiple gators on the same dike together. You get to see them often just by the side of the water with lovely little reflections on them. It's an extremely good place to consistently see alligators in different conditions and really get a chance to observe them in their natural habitat. Now, we've gone ahead and hit on the gators. Let's go ahead and move on to birds. Because there were so many species available to view due to this being the high peak birding season, I'm going to go ahead and break this down into different subcategories that we're going to run through. We're going to go ahead and start out with what my family would call cow elk. Things like vultures, both the turkey vulture with the red head and the black vulture with the black head. Then also anhingas, aka snake birds that you can see swimming in the water, and moorhens, which are often seen right up next to the banks. You can see a lot of them, but you can also just see hundreds of them all over the marsh. Now, there are some varieties like this. This is the purple gallinule that is very similar to the moorhen that are a little bit more uncommon. We typically don't see them every time we go out, and in this case, we only saw this one purple gallinule in the entire trip. But their cousins, the common moorhens, and also the coots, which you frequently see mixed in with the moorhens, our cow elk for the day, and we just saw hundreds and hundreds of them mixed in with ducks, singly. We saw a coot and a moorhen having an epic battle. It was quite amusing. Mixed in also with those, you often see grebes. This is the pie-billed grebe, and then also boat-tailed grackles, which the males can be black and iridescent like this, or the females can be brown. And our last really common bird is the double-breasted cormorant, which, similar to the anhinga, can be seen swimming in the water. Our next group is the wading birds, including the herons, like the great blue heron here. Also the egrets, like the great egret here. Those two are larger birds and pretty easy to spot. You'll see them close by on the bank, so you can get nice pictures of them. Pretty characteristic birds. And also the snowy egrets, which are a bit smaller and have that beautiful black bill. Although egrets, like the snowy egret, were hunted prolifically in the last century for their white plumage, they are actually coming back and pretty frequently seen at the drive. Our next bird is the tricolor heron, another very commonly seen heron with a striking three-color appearance. And we did see a few little blue herons on the drive today. Most were juveniles, which have a white appearance instead of their trademark blue. In addition to that, we saw only one green heron all day. However, you may occasionally spot them on the drive. More frequently seen are the glossy ibis, and also white ibis, although we didn't see too many of those today. We mostly saw glossies. The only place we saw the white ibis were right near the end of the drive, near the sod field. Now we're going to shift to the raptors that we saw. Now, with the raptors, I don't have a lot of good video because you see them on the wing and far away most of the time. So I hope you'll forgive me for this kind of rudimentary animation that I put together of our first raptor, the wonderful harrier. The harrier is frequently seen hovering almost over vegetation as it hunts. We do see them at the drive fairly frequently in multiple locations, so keep your eyes peeled for them at the drive. Our next raptor is the osprey, also known as the fishhawk. These amazing aerial acrobats can be seen all over the drive, frequently sitting on telephone poles eating, or hovering over the water looking for food. In addition to harriers, it's common to see other types of hawk, like this Cooper's hawk, but they're not necessarily always seen every time. This is a juvenile red shoulder hawk. We usually say, when in doubt, it's a red shoulder. But you can also see merlin, red tail hawks, all sorts of different types of raptors at the drive. Our next group is going to be ducks, which is Granddaddy Brady's favorite thing. So believe me, we spent a lot of time looking at these wonderful birds, and we'll go ahead and start out with these ones here, the black-bellied whistling tree ducks. They have been frequently seen at the end of the drive near stop 9 on Interceptor Road. We've been seeing them along the dike a lot, but not so much this particular trip. That's why I don't have too many close-ups. But we saw tons of them just flying in. And it's amazing to watch them because they're so long and lean compared to most ducks. They stick their feet out while they're flying, unlike the teal here that are little bullets. They're the most common duck you'll generally see at the drive, and you can see them pretty much anywhere on the drive. They're the blue-winged teal. We do occasionally see green-winged teal, but we didn't see any on this particular trip. And there's also, in addition to these lovely little teal, the fulvous whistling tree duck. Now, these are fairly rare in Florida. While it changes with conditions, recently we've been seeing them on the passenger side of Luss Road and the driver's side of Welland Road, and also at the historic pump house. They are only seen rarely in Central Florida. They are mostly in South Florida and are extremely visibly pleasing ducks. They have this almost gold color to them, and if you get really close to them, which you often can on Welland Road right now, you can get a lot of those wonderful details. They have white and black and wonderful patterns all over them, and they'll be mixed in often with the ringneck duck, which you can see both the male and the female. Here's a female right there. They, as you can see, do not have their feet sticking out when they fly, and are often found mixed in with coots, moorhens, and a variety of other ducks. Because of some technical issues we had, we were not able to get close-ups really of any other species of ducks, but we did also see widgeon and gadwall, and one female northern shoveler here just happened to be mixed in with all of them. I think she might have been a little lost. But you can see all different kinds of species of ducks here depending on where we are in the migration. And so if you are into ducks, this is your dream location. You will see them migrating through. There are also some year-round populations. Depending on what part of the migration you come through, it may be also possible to see greater and lesser sculp, as well as pintails. Those are ones that we've frequently seen at the drive. I would definitely recommend that you bring your binoculars and a zoom lens if you can. But if you can't, just seeing it in person is really cool. And for our last section, let's talk about animals we saw on this particular trip that you don't always see every time you go to the drive. A prime example is this snipe here. It's a common Wilson snipe, and they are so well camouflaged that you often don't realize that they're there. I literally didn't realize that the snipe was in this picture when I took it. It wasn't until later that I got home and zoomed in that I realized that it was in the background behind these teal. Another bird we happened to see on this trip was the red-bellied woodpecker. They're fairly frequently seen anywhere in Florida, and so you could definitely see them on the drive just by chance. You can also see a variety of turtles, both the hard shells and the Florida soft shells. I wasn't certain of the species of these, but I do believe they're some sort of slider, and we did see some soft shells, but I wasn't able to get pictures. We were very excited to see this raccoon, however, briefly. It's not that common to see mammals out at the wildlife drive, but you can occasionally spot them if you're very eagle-eyed. Now, more common is the greater yellowlegs here, which is one of the little wading birds you see by the shoreline, and the various warblers, including the palm warbler here. They can often be seen flitting around in the trees and bushes, and often also at the swamp as well. We also saw quite a bit of eastern phoebes, which, similar to the warblers, can be seen in the bushes or anywhere that they can get a nice perch. And of course, no trip to the drive is complete without seeing the mockingbird, our state bird. Now, as we leave the drive here, I want you to take a look at these sod fields. And the thing that's really amazing about Lake Apopka Wildlife Drive is it all used to look very similar to that. It was all agricultural fields that were reclaimed and made into wetlands not even 10 years ago. It was about 2015, 2014, somewhere in there that the drive opened, and we've been going since 2018, and it has improved greatly. Imagine if more places were set aside like this, if animals were given a refuge in this world where the suburbs are taking more and more of their habitat every day. Please support these types of parks because they make us all better.